Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome aboard to the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum's Missionary Ridge Local, Train 100, round-trip service to East Chattanooga and return. But folks, we are going in the wrong direction. We are headed east today. Once the train passed over it, the switch moved on its own. And right now, we are going backwards. At the back of the train right now is your conductor, Jason, and he's back there to perform a maneuver that we call protecting the shove. Because right now, Zach is at the back, while Jason is at the front. In the radio, as a means to let us know of how much more space is left as we continue clearing backwards on Y. Again, spelled W-Y. Railway was then assumed ownership of the line from 1894 until 1954, when these tracks would be abandoned for a reason I'll explain later in the trip. Railway. If you're in car 2, the car in the middle of the train, that is our oldest, the 1037, built in 1911 by the Pullman Company. If you're riding the very last car of our train that has the open windows, that is our open air coach number 1000, built in 1925 by the Pullman Company for the Southern Railway. If you catch what I've said thus far, all three of the coaches on the train today have two manufacturer, that being the Pullman Company, although in separate years of course. And 2, all three of these coaches are over 100 years old. Car 1000 is the youngest at 101, car 1037 is the oldest at 115, and 906 is 102. Just talked about this is a former Norfolk Southern main line, first built back in 1859 for the ET&G. But the tracks that we're on here today are not the original tracks. What instead, these tracks used to be down below us. If the tracks used to be down below us, then why are we down there right now? Well, there's a reason. That reason is flooding. It got so bad here that in 1906, the Southern Railroad was forced to raise the tracks up to this current height. Once again, folks, if you look over to the left side of the train and look down below, you will see that gravel road. Of water, we are now crossing over our first bridge over the South Chickamauga Creek. In the water below, you might see creatures such as turtles, river otters, and if you look on either side of the train, you'll see some tracks off the distance. Take a look over to the right side of the train. Here's the when we are not supplying them with this alloy coating, they can obviously store some of our excess equipment on there. So you'll see some eagles, tenders, flatbeds, box cars, coaches, and service tools. but straight at all times. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to East Chattanooga.
Now this here turntable was built back in 1916 by the American Bridge Company of Ambridge, Pennsylvania for the Central of Georgia Railway. It weighs 80 tons, measures 80 feet long, and is motorized, powered by a 25 horsepower motor. It's back in the days of steam engines, they turned this around, not by machine, they did it by hand. This used to be a hand-powered turntable. It took roughly about 4 people to turn this whole thing around, and here's how they did that. There would have been a pole at each end of the table. So for example, let's say one pole is here, one pole is over there at the other end. You then have your 4 people. So once again, let's say 2 here, 2 over there. Then through their might, strength, and determination, they would push on those poles, thus turning this thing around. Doing all of that by themselves, by hand, with 0 machines whatsoever. Since being built in 1916, this turntable has since been modernized, and in the 1980s was motorized. So as such, I will not need any volunteers from the crowd this afternoon. Now Jason is so strong, in fact, he will turn our turntable with the power of just 1 finger. We call this the magic finger. What do you think he'll do with that magic finger of his?
Turn on the motor!
I heard it a couple times in there, but yes, you are correct. Push a button. So without any further ado, let me introduce you to your locomotive here today, the 4617. Built in 1954 by the Electromotive Division of General Motors, EMD for short, for the Illinois Central Railway. When built new in 1954, it was originally numbered the 9043 and was built as a model GP9 diesel-electric type locomotive. She stayed in that original configuration until 1974, when she was sent to the railway shops in Topeka, Kentucky to be heavily rebuilt. As a part of that process, the engine was built into a model GP10, which is what you now see it as from today, a GP10. GP is short for general purpose. during that 1974 rebuild, the engine's cap replacement was called a low-nose short-hood cap, but not easier today. It was repainted into the colors of cream and orange, replacing its original gray and black, and was renumbered to Illinois Central number 8346, where it ran primarily in freight service. At a later point in its life, it would be sold off to the U.S. Army, where it was given its current number of the 4617. Ran with the Army for several decades until being retired in 2016. We acquired the engine that same year. Now, for most of its time here at the museum, this engine spent time on our freight division, our freight service on the Turntable Railway. Tyner, for those wondering, was a little more eastward here in town. And that was until last year, 2025, when it was transferred over to our East Chattanooga division for passenger service, which it has been doing ever since. Now, once we get our engine turned around, the 4617 will want to run our trains within a couple of hours across the back. Basically, when we return to Grand Junction, the back will become the front, and the front will become the back. So, how is that going to happen? Right now, our train's sitting on what we call track number 1. We're not going there just yet. We're going to take this turntable and move it to the track next door. So, this is track 1. Next door, we have track 2.
It's a diesel, right?
Alrighty, let's give our crew a big round of applause. And at this time, we're going to head over indoors to our back shop for the shop tour. If you're not interested, you're well welcome to head back to the train or depot. But if you'd like to see more entertainment and see what's inside of our back shops, then please follow me right this way. Once again, our shop tour begins at the crossing. Right this way. Thank you.
Is stored out of service, but its last major restoration was from 2001 to 2011. That restoration costed us $700,000. Now, for something even crazier, we do have an operational steam locomotive. It is the green one in the middle of the yard, the 4501. That locomotive cost us $2 to $3 million to restore. Even more money. We are now departing East Chattanooga and back towards Grand Junction. On behalf of myself and the rest of our train crew, staff, and volunteers, thank you for riding with us at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. We do offer a selection of other trains and excursions that you might enjoy. For those who might fancy a longer trip, we have 2 of those that run down to the lovely state of Georgia. We have our lunch train service as well as our dinner on the diner dinner train, both of those running to downtown Chattanooga. We offer several holiday and annual themed live events throughout the year.